President made clear that this is a commitment he has made in the past, that it's not in the interest of the United States, and that we want to try to address our climate crisis while also creating good-paying union jobs. He believes you can do both, and he has been consistent about his opposition to the Keystone Pipeline.
That was them stopping the Keystone Pipeline. Biden administration also, as you remember, they've stopped any drilling for oil on federal lands. Okay, all right. It's clearly a climate change nut job administration. Of course, it's no big deal. Oh, it's a big deal, but that's what they were doing. Well, that's weird because yesterday we cited the Biden administration calling for OPEC, that's foreign oil, to ramp up their production, citing higher gasoline costs if left unchecked, risk harming the ongoing global recovery. Now, keep in mind, I want you to keep this in mind, since just July of last year, July to July, gasoline is up 42%. 42%. Used cars are up 42%, hotels up 24%, airfare up 19%, public transport, bacon up 11%, milk and beef up 8%, even lettuce is up 5%. Inflation currently 7.8% and rising. Now, let's set all that stuff aside for a moment before we get to the consumer prices and everything else. Okay, so the Joe Biden administration comes in. They stop our domestic oil production, our transport of our domestic oil. Okay, they stop any oil on federal lands. All right. And now they're calling for foreign oil. And what I saw yesterday was a lot of people on the right, as all this information was starting to come out, I saw a lot of people on the right saying things like, what a hypocrite. This is hypocritical. This doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. How could he do this? And then what? It makes perfect sense. If you saw Joe Biden stopping domestic oil production and then begging foreigners to ramp up theirs, and you were confused, you thought it didn't make any sense, it's because you don't understand what you're dealing with here. You don't understand it at all. I've tried to explain this before. I'm going to explain this again. And I know this hurts to hear. I know it does. And believe me, I know you think it does. It doesn't give me any pleasure to say this, but it is critical we understand what we're facing. When you say Joe Biden stopping domestic oil and telling them to make more hurts America. They know. They know. You're not rattling them when you point out these prices. You're not rattling them at all. The consumer price index, it's up 0.5 point from last month, 5.4% from last year. 5.4%. Here's what Joe Biden had to say about it, by the way.
Today, I'm pleased to share more good news with the American people. The latest report on consumer prices show that we've expanded some easing, the expected easing we thought was going to come has increased, that we've seen a good monthly report.
Mr. Producer, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I do the best I can not to be harsh. Would you mind playing that again for me and the viewers so we can try to unpack what the commander-in-chief is trying to say there?
Today, I'm pleased to share more good news with the American people. The latest report on consumer prices show that we've expanded some easing, the expected easing we thought was going to come has increased, that we've seen a good monthly report.
Oh, well, that clears that up. I don't know what he was trying to say. I do know when you get to the point CNN is calling you out, that's not good.
Of course, companies are paying workers more these days. Unfortunately, those fatter paychecks are not going as far because of inflation. In fact, compensation is now less than it was in December of 2019, adjusted for inflation, according to Harvard University.
That's weird. Let's pause for just one moment on that because I want to explain something to people. Since no one teaches economics anymore in this country, allow me to do just a really basic course for you here. What you earn actually is not nearly as important as what you earn in relation to the cost of goods and services around you. You see, if I were to give you $100 and put you in New York City and say, have fun living, you're going to last till lunch, maybe. If I were to give you $100 and put you in some remote third world country, probably do pretty well for yourself for a few days. It's what you earn in relation to the cost of goods and services around you. Well, what we've done is not only destroy the value of that dollar you have, the value of that $100 by our absurd spending with no money backing it up, we've also increased the cost of goods and services around everybody. Now, what's this doing? What's this really doing? It's doing everything the communists have ever wanted. It destroys the middle class. Now, it's not good, right? Joe Biden doing terribly on the economy. 86%, this is according to a Fox News poll, of registered voters are now concerned about inflation, compared to 83 in just June. 79% of voters blame government economic policies for rising prices, and his approval rating has sunk to a record low average of 49%. Now, that's bad if you're the Democrats. Remember, you got a midterm election coming up here, about a year, and then you have a presidential election. You don't think about it because it feels like we just had one. Presidential election's 3 years away. It's not that far. You got a presidential election coming. And the president, Joe Biden, he's not going to be there. It's going to be Kamala Harris. President Pudding Brain is not standing for re-election, whether he's still president then or not. They are going to shuffle him off to Boca Raton and forget he ever existed. So what are you stuck with? Well, you're stuck with Kamala Harris. And that's not good, because everybody this side of Willie Brown hates Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, she's one of the most unlikable VPs of all time. Remember, vice president is like the backup quarterback. He's always the most popular guy in town. Why? He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have any responsibilities. So everyone looks at him and thinks, oh, wow, I bet he's better than that bum who just threw the interception. VPs are always popular. Not Kamala. Her approval's actually down 8%. It's now at 41%. You know how hard it is to reduce your approval level as vice president? You don't do anything. But every time she opens her mouth, well, not every time, but most of the time she opens her mouth, people hate it. People absolutely despise it. The New York Post reported Kamala is so unpopular, they've consulted Hillary Clinton staffers for lessons in likability. Wrap your mind around that. Hillary Clinton is one of the most unlikable politicians of all time. It's why it's shocking she was ever able to achieve anything. I mean, she was handed Senate in New York. She was handed Secretary of State. But she was supposed to win the presidential election twice, remember? People forget Hillary Clinton was the runaway favorite in both those races, and she lost it because Hillary Clinton's an unlikable hag. Everyone loved Bill. No one actually liked Hillary. And Kamala's team looked at Hillary and said, wow, we get her in here to help us out. When you're consulting Hillary Clinton, man, you're underwater. It's where we are. Hey, thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me.